Hello everyone, this is Here's Trivia, and today we're starting a brand new Let's Talk Lore series on the channel, covering the Wei General Guanqiu Jian and his conquest of the Korean peninsula. For those who have watched our past Let's Talk Lore series on the reign of Cao Rui, the rise of Sima Yi, and the Fourth Kingdom of Yan, Guanqiu Jian should already be a familiar name, as we last mentioned his involvement in the Wei campaign against Gongsun Yuan, the self-proclaimed emperor of the short-lived Kingdom of Yan in the Liaodong region. But as this series will focus entirely on Guanqiu Jian himself, I feel it's only proper that we start out the series with episode 1 here by providing a full background on this rather obscure and lesser known Three Kingdoms character. Guanqiu Jian, whose style name is Zhonggong, was born in Hedong as the second son of Guanqiu Xing, who would eventually become the Wei administrator of the Western Wei Commandery. In the early periods of Wei's founding, Guanqiu Xing was involved in successfully suppressing several nomadic rebellions out west, which earned him a minor nobility title as the Marquis of the Gaoyang County, and a promotion back to the new imperial capital of Luoyang as the chief architect in charge of building the Wei Imperial Palace complex for Emperor Cao Pi. However, Guanqiu Xing would not live long in this post, as he would die of illness in the early periods of Cao Pi's reign, and since Guanqiu Xing's eldest son did not survive childhood, Guanqiu Jian, the second son, and now the natural heir, would end up inheriting his father's county-level marquis title. While this might have been the end of the story for many second-generation nobility title holders, Guanqiu Jian was fortunate in that his father was the chief architect of the imperial palace, as this position allowed him close access to Emperor Cao Pi, which would pay dividends as Cao Pi was aware of the Guanqiu clan enough to eventually pick Guanqiu Jian as a Wenxue Yuan, or a peer tutor, for his son and future heir, Emperor Cao Rui. Now, the exact duty of the Wenxue Yuan position is not recorded down in history, but it can be deduced that when princes such as Cao Rui attended classes taught by his grand tutor, there would be other peers who attended these classes with him to take in the lessons alongside him and assist him in learning. Given how this position afforded close access to the future heir of the kingdom, the selection for Wenxue Yuan usually came down to two factors. The first factor is usually based on merit, as in the case of Zheng Cheng, who was a renowned up-and-coming scholar when he was picked to become one of Cao Pi's peer tutors. And the second factor is usually based on connections to the imperial clan, as another peer tutor of Cao Rui was Wei Zhen, whose father was Cao Cao's first supporter in Wei Zi, and someone who died fighting for Cao Cao during the coalition days against Dong Zhuo. Guanqiu Jian's appointment to this position probably fell under the second category, as his clan was not a notable gentry scholar clan, and while Guanqiu Jian would grow up to become a talented scholar, it was more likely of a direct effect of his peer tutelage with Cao Rui, rather than a cause for his original appointment to this position. Regardless of the reason for Guanqiu Jian's appointment, his political outlook shifted drastically during these 6 years as he bonded with Cao Rui, who would eventually go on to become emperor in the year 226 following Cao Pi's early death to illness. With Cao Rui's ascension to the throne, Guanqiu Jian would also ascend up the political ladder, as he would be promoted first to the imperial secretariat as the imperial court secretary, or Shangshulang. From this civil position, Cao Rui would go on to promote Guanqiu Jian to become one of the 3 captains for the imperial palace guards, or Yulin Jian, as Guanqiu Jian would get his first taste of military command before eventually ending up as the head of the Tuntian military system for the area around the capital city of Luoyang, in the position of Diannong Zhonglangjiang, which was a military post that was equivalent to an administrator. And given that Cao Rui always kept Guanqiu Jian close and in key military posts around the capital, it was clear that Guanqiu Jian had Cao Rui's trust. Now, aside from being in the favor of the emperor, Guanqiu Jian did eventually make a name for himself when he co-authored an ode to a Han Dynasty artifact with the famed scholar and imperial uncle Cao Zhi, which helped elevate his status amongst the scholars of the period and put him in the same circles as other young and talented scholars such as Xiahou Xuan. Furthermore, Guanqiu Jian was universally praised when he spoke out against his main benefactor in Emperor Cao Rui, as he would join many at court in trying to convince Cao Rui to halt his expensive palace constructions, especially as the Wei coffers were running low due to Zhuge Liang's repeated attacks out west. It was particularly noteworthy, as in Guanqiu Jian's letter to Cao Rui, he noted that the number one priority of the kingdom was the destruction of the rebel states of Wu and Shu. Following that, the number two priority of the kingdom was the well-beings of its citizens. However, given that both of the rebel states were still at large, and the citizens of Wei were suffering from the cost of war on both fronts, he argued to Cao Rui that no matter how grand these palaces will turn out to be, it would be difficult to find joy in them. Now, while Cao Rui had his vices, as he would largely ignore most of these criticism from court and continue his hobby of grand palace construction, especially during the later periods of his reign, Cao Rui should be also praised for never holding a grudge against his officials for speaking up against him. And this applied to Guanqiu Jian as well, for when Sima Yi had to be reassigned from the Jin province to the Western Front following Cao Zhen's poor health and Zhuge Liang's fourth northern expedition, Guanqiu Jian was the man Cao Rui picked to replace Sima Yi in the Jin province, as Guanqiu Jian became the prefect of the Jin province and took up military command in Xiangyang. This military post would also help Guanqiu Jian avoid Emperor Cao Rui's case against vanity, or a political purge against some of the newer generations of scholars, headlined by the dismissal and imprisonment of He Yan, Deng Yang, and Ding Mi, as Emperor Cao Rui felt that despite their reputations for being talented scholars, they were mostly just empty big names with most of their prestige earned from their philosophical debates without any material or practical talent for actual governing. It should also come as no surprise that these three would eventually earn their way back to the court under Regent Cao Shuang after Cao Rui's death and become his infamous three dogs of the imperial secretariat. While this event would not directly impact Guanqiu Jian, he did start to take extra precautions when it came to recommending new talents to the court, as he took Cao Rui's message to heart and avoided selecting people based on mere reputation and focused more on their actual capabilities. Now, in the year 235, with Zhuge Liang's death at Wuzhang Plain, it seemed that the Shu-Han threat has finally subsided, and seizing upon this opportunity, Guanqiu Jian would present a new strategy to Emperor Cao Rui, as he made the argument that with Shu and Wu both entrenched in their positions, it would be difficult to uproot them in the short term. With it now approaching a decade into Cao Rui's reign, there was clearly a lack of successful military expansion for the Kingdom of Wei, which in turn hurts Cao Rui's legacy when compared to the likes of his father Cao Pi and his grandfather Cao Cao. So to fix that, Guanqiu Jian suggested that instead of continue to focus on difficult targets such as Shu and Wu, perhaps it was better to turn towards smaller and more achievable targets such as the Gongsun clan in Liaodong, which has long enjoyed a semi-autonomous vassal status with the Kingdom of Wei. And given their recent diplomatic flirtation with the Kingdom of Wu, and the general lack of loyalty and outsized ambition in this frontier region, Guanqiu Jian felt they could make for the perfect target for the first step in building Cao Rui's legacy and glory. Tempted by Guanqiu Jian's proposal, Cao Rui moved to appoint Guanqiu Jian later in 235 as the new prefect for the You province, which is a province that had jurisdiction over the Liaodong commandery, even though the Gongsun clan, now under the rule of Gongsun Yuan, had long ignored this administrative structure. Aside from this civil appointment, Guanqiu Jian was also made into the general in charge of Liao matters, or Du Liao Jiangjun, given independent military command, and also took on the title of Lieutenant of Wuhuan Affairs, which gave him the power to deal with nomadic issues in the region, on top of diplomatic matters. All in all, Guanqiu Jian was thrusted into this key military post on the northeastern front of the Kingdom of Wei, where he was now positioned as both the architect and the executioner of Cao Rui's legacy building project against Gongsun Yuan and his Liaodong vassal commandery. This, of course, will also be what sets Guanqiu Jian up as the military commander in charge of his eventual 2 military campaigns into modern-day Korean Peninsula. But before we get to that, our episode here comes to an end, as we'll return next time to look at Guanqiu Jian's campaign against Gongsun Yuan and the political shift that would leave him stranded in this frontier outpost. So hopefully you all have enjoyed this episode enough to consider subscribing to the channel for more content on Three Kingdoms history, or simply support the channel by leaving a comment below or just by hitting the like button. And as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye!